The power of metal. Strength. Precision. Durability. Working with metal is an old and demanding craft. Perhaps it's the unusual shape that makes some metal objects stand out, or the skill and patience it must have taken to make it. Craftsmanship is easy to recognize. So is a properly installed roof system. It takes a lot of preparation and know-how to properly install metal roof systems and get the job done safely. Welcome to Mastering the Craft, the essentials of metal roof systems. In this video, you'll become familiar with the basic materials and techniques professional roofing workers use to install metal roof systems. You'll discover different kinds of metals used for roof systems, learn basic application methods, and check out some important safety precautions. You'll also get an opportunity to practice these new skills during in-shop and on-the-job training sessions. So, stay sharp and get ready to hone your skills. A traditional sword, delicate, yet dangerous. Crafted to meet the demands of an ancient martial art. The warrior knows how the sword will respond. He has a solid understanding of the metal from which it was made. Whatever your task, you need to understand the basics, and that's what part one is about. Becoming familiar with metal and the many roles it plays in a quality roof system. There are two basic types of metal roof systems, architectural and structural. A structural metal roof system is designed to be weatherproof, preventing water from seeping into joints, laps, or penetrations. A structural metal roof system does not require the support of a solid deck. Architectural metal roof systems typically are not watertight. Instead, they are water-shedding, designed to shed water quickly. An architectural roof system typically requires a solid or closely spaced supportive deck, a minimum number 30 asphalt saturated felt underlayment, and sometimes a separate slip sheet. Also, for the panels to shed water properly, the roof must have a slope greater than 3 12. For metal roof systems, however, there are some exceptions. Some structural metal roof systems are used on steep slopes, and some architectural systems can be installed on low slopes thanks to new types of sealants. Metal is also used in flashing and accessory trim for metal roof systems, as well as all types of roof systems to shed water from penetrations. It also spruces up a roof's appearance. There are different types of architectural metal systems. Metal shingles, including individually handcrafted, manufactured shingles and modular panels, and standing seam panel systems. Modular panels come in many varieties and can simulate clay or concrete tiles, as well as wood shakes and shingles. Horizontal Bermuda panels are continuous and run perpendicular to the roof slope. Standing seam panel systems come in a variety of profiles. There are two types of seams: single-fold snap-lock seams, or field seams that are double or triple-fold locked. These panel profiles highlight a roof's appearance. A structural metal panel roof system acts as a water barrier, resisting water at joints, laps, and penetrations. Although structural systems do not require weatherproofing underlayments, they typically include a vapor retarder. Because of its strength, a structural metal panel system does not need the support of a solid or closely spaced deck. A structural metal panel system can span over widely spaced supports. Insulation and vapor retarders are often required for this type of system. Weatherproof flashings and accessories help keep water out. Manufacturers often provide custom-fitted flashings and accessories for their systems. Now let's look at some common terms used for measurements in metal roof applications. Thickness can be measured in inches or millimeters. Aluminum is typically measured this way. Steel is measured by gauge, such as 24 or 26 gauge. Other metals, such as copper and lead, are measured by weight per square foot. Another application measurement is end lap, which is the amount of overlap at the ends of the adjacent pieces. On center is the distance between metal pieces or fasteners as they are spaced apart. The perimeter measures the distance all the way around an area or piece of metal. Coverage is the surface area that's actually covered by a quantity of metal. Exposure is the area left exposed after a piece of metal is overlapped and installed. Metal panels must be installed so they fit squarely to the building structure. You'll learn how to square roof panels later in this program. A radius application means installing metal over a curved surface.
Okay, let's take a moment now and check out the different kinds of metals and the different coatings and finishes that are used. Some metals by their nature are corrosion resistant and don't require any coatings. Let's start with these.
Aluminum is light and flexible and won't rust. Copper is a soft metal, which makes it easy to work with. Lead is a softer metal and can be formed by hand. It's ideal for flashing around odd shapes. Copper and lead are measured in ounces per square foot. Stainless steel and titanium are two metals that are stiff to work with, but very tough and highly rust resistant. Zinc is another metal that also weathers naturally.
The metals you've just seen don't require coatings. Steel is an extremely durable alloy of iron and carbon. However, a finish, surface, or coating is often applied for extra protection and enhanced appearance. Let's look at these different types of finishes.
A finish, surface, or coating can be painted, enameled, or chemically enhanced. For example, Kynar is just one trade name for a chemically enhanced painted finish. Steel can also have a galvanized finish. This means it's been coated with zinc for extra rust resistance. Steel can also be aluminized, covered with a thin coat of aluminum. When zinc and aluminum are combined, they produce a special coating. Its trade name is Galvalume. Steel can be coated with lead, too. Lead-coated copper, for example, gives roofing and flashing materials the appearance of lead, but weighs much less. Another method of protecting metal from corrosion is called turn coating. The metal is coated on both sides with lead and tin or zinc and tin. An anodized coating is a thin film of aluminum oxide used only on aluminum to give it a very hard surface. One last coating you should be familiar with is called a stone-coated finish. This mineral or granular finish greatly enhances the beauty of the metal product. The finish is applied after the metal is formed. Some metals arrive on the job site with a temporary coating of plastic masking that protects the pieces from scratches and stains. Remove the masking before installation and don't leave the masking exposed to the sun. The plastic can stick to the metal, making it tough to remove. The type of coating may determine how the metal pieces are joined. Be sure you understand the manufacturer's requirements for the materials. If you don't understand, ask your supervisor. Some metals like stainless, copper, and lead don't require coatings. They weather naturally. Don't allow non-compatible metals to come in contact with each other when they are installed, such as copper roofs fastened with aluminum nails. Some metals react badly to each other and corrode quickly. This is called galvanic reaction. Moisture and salt can speed up the damage. Metals expand and contract, some more than others. Keep this in mind when you install metal roof systems. Metal roof systems should be designed to accommodate movement caused by expansion and contraction. You'll learn more about this topic in your workbook. Insulation is often used with metal roof systems and can help prevent condensation from forming on metal panels. There are two types of insulation used with metal roof systems: blanket and rigid board. Metal roof systems are attached using screws or concealed clips. Many clips are designed to accommodate expansion and contraction in the metal panels. Sealants such as polyurethane, silicone, and butyl rubber are available in caulk and tape forms and are used in most metal system applications. Check the specs to make sure you are using the right sealant for the system. Many metal roof systems are engineered to meet the specific needs of buildings. There are also modular systems available today that can be customized for use on many roofs. You can learn more about modular systems in your workbook.
We've reached the end of part one. Let's take a minute to quickly review what you've learned so far.
You became familiar with different kinds of metal roof applications, including architectural and structural roof systems. You learned about the different kinds of base metals, their unique characteristics, how they are measured, and looked at different types of coatings that give metal panels extra protection against corrosion from the weather. You became familiar with metals that do not require coatings. They just weather naturally. You learned that non-compatible metals should not come in contact when they are installed, and that all metals expand and contract. You looked at insulations used, how screws and clips are used to attach metal systems, and sealants.
You're getting to know metal roofing materials and the part they play in creating long-lasting, weather-resistant roof systems. Join me in part two and learn how to stay safe on the job.
The journey from student to master is difficult and potentially dangerous. Before a student picks up a real sword, he must first demonstrate his ability with a practice weapon. When it's time for a student to use a real sword, there will be no room for mistakes. There's no room for mishaps on a roof either, where there's always the potential for an accident or injury.
A professional roofing worker knows that safety is critical and takes proper precautions for his own safety and that of his crew members. In part two of this video, you're going to review some basic tips that will help you complete a metal installation successfully and safely.
On a metal roof installation, you'll often work along exposed roof edges. Here are some important things to remember about fall protection. When you set up a ladder, know how high the house or building is from the ground to the eaves. For every 4 feet in height, extend the ladder 1 foot away from the building. Set the feet of the ladder on stable ground and extend the ladder at least 3 feet above the eave. Don't forget to tie it off. And don't carry anything that could make you lose your balance. Make sure the proper fall protection equipment is in place before you begin work. You'll probably wear one of these, a personal fall arrest system, or use warning lines, guardrails, or scaffolding. Here's another important tip. Make sure holes and skylight openings are securely covered or have guardrails around them.
Don't take a chance and try and work without proper fall protection. You'll lose.
One challenge about working on any roof is that when it's wet or coated with frost, it can be very slippery. So be extra careful. If you work on a steep slope roof, you may use crawling boards or chicken ladders. Some other type of fall protection must also be used.
On a metal roof installation, another potential hazard is sharp corners and edges, which can cause serious injury. Always wear proper PPE.
Protect your hands by wearing heavy leather gloves. Also, metal can get extremely hot in the sun, so gloves are critical. They should provide a good grip, and make sure they're clean. Dirty gloves can soil and scratch a metal's finish. Never forget to wear eye protection. Flying objects and sharp corners can blind you. Sunglasses will cut down on the glare from metal panels on bright days. A long-sleeve shirt will protect you from cuts and sunburn. When you join two pieces of metal by soldering, you may be exposed to potentially hazardous chemicals and fumes. Protect yourself. You may also have to take appropriate precautions to avoid a fire. Make sure you have a dry chemical fire extinguisher nearby. And when you are soldering, make sure there is proper ventilation, especially indoors. If not, you may need to use a respirator.
Now let's take a look at how to safely handle materials for a typical metal application.
Metal components and accessories are sometimes large, but they don't weigh very much and can blow around easily, like sails, which makes them hard to control. If necessary, ask another person to help you. Be extra careful when it's windy, or you could get knocked over, or even off the roof. Stack the pieces, tie them together, and weigh them down to keep them from blowing around. Be careful not to damage the finishes or crease the panels. Also, panels should be covered with a breathable tarp and kept dry. Moisture should not get trapped within the panel stacks. Tilt the panels so any moisture can drain away.
Hoisting materials can be a challenge. Doing it safely is critical. You don't want to injure yourself or anyone else. Panels must be supported so they don't bend or crease. A bad crease in a panel can make it useless, and that's a waste. Here's how to hoist properly.
Secure the slings and straps at 2 points and make sure the load is balanced. If it's not, the bundled metal could tip sideways and fall out, or individual pieces could slide out. Either way, someone could be seriously injured. Be sure the load is secured together by taping the ends of the bundles. If you're handling metal with a forklift or boom, secure the load so pieces don't slip off. And remember, don't operate hoisting equipment or forklifts and booms unless you are properly trained. To lift metal panels yourself, use proper lifting techniques. Check the weight before you try to lift. If it's too heavy or too long, get help. Always have enough help so the panel's weight and length is fully supported and doesn't crease. Try to carry the panels on edge, not laying flat.
Once you get the materials on the roof, you need to prepare for the installation.
Spot materials in areas where they will be used, but don't store the metal closer than 6 feet from any roof edge. On architectural metal jobs, a proper substrate is critical, so check the deck to make sure it's properly secured and in good condition. For architectural metal jobs, you will need to install an underlayment before the application. You'll learn how to do this later in your in-shop and on-the-job training.
Well, that brings us to the end of part 2. You're prepared for the installation. Before we move on, though, let's quickly review.
You were reminded of some basic safety do's and don'ts, how to set up and use a ladder properly, and have all your fall protection in place. You checked out the PPE you'll need, taking special care of your eyes and hands. Remember, metal edges are sharp and can cut you. You learned how to safely rig bundles of metal for hoisting. And finally, how to prepare the job site for a metal installation.
Join me in part 3. We'll check out the special tools and equipment you'll use for metal installations.
With each lesson, students step closer to training with real weapons. But first, they must learn to care for the equipment they will use every day.
The same holds true for tools and equipment, and that's what we're going to cover in part 3 of this video. Learning about the tools and equipment you'll use to install metal roof systems. Now, you won't need all these tools for every job, but no matter which tools you use, make sure they're in good condition.
Check tools before using them. If a tool is broken, remove it from service, tag it, and have it repaired. And always wear the appropriate PPE for the tools you use. This claw hammer is used to secure and remove fasteners and help shape and form metal. A utility knife can be used to score and cut underlayment. A tape measure does just that. It helps you take measurements. Chalk lines are used to snap and mark lines. A caulking gun applies sealant. There are 3 types of tin snips you'll use: left cut, right cut, and straight cut snips. Some are offset or overhand style to help keep your hands away from the cut edges. Metal shears are used for larger cutting tasks. Make sure you wear proper gloves when you're cutting. Some metal roofing products can be cut using a guillotine that matches a panel's profile and minimizes damage. A handbrake bends and shapes metals. Folding tongs are used for crimping and seaming metals together. Rivets join metal together. You'll use a rivet gun to secure the rivets. Grinders cut heavier metal pieces. Never use them to cut metal roofing materials. They can leave a raw edge that can easily corrode and damage the metal. You'll need a center punch to make small dents for marking. Soldering is a skill rarely used anymore, but some systems may still require it. Soldering irons and pots are used to bind metal seams. You'll learn how to solder in a future program. Notchers and crimpers use pressure to fasten or reshape metal. On a job site, you may need to shape metal for different applications using a portable brake. You may also use a variety of power tools, like drills with different kinds of bits, powered hand shears that make cutting metal easier, and welding equipment. Power seamers mechanically fold and lock metal panel seams. Whenever you use a power tool or piece of equipment, check its owner's manual for proper use and maintenance instructions, and for any special PPE requirements. Here are a couple of more safety tips. Never carry a tool by its cord. It could get damaged and cause electric shock. And be sure your power source for equipment has a ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI. Many metal roof systems come with preformed accessories that minimize metal forming at the job site. Use these accessories when called for by the manufacturer. However, you need to know how metal is formed in the shop to help you better understand how metal performs after it's installed. Power shears are electrically driven and cut large sheets of metal. Sheet metal brakes and computerized power brakes bend metal into a variety of shapes and angles. Equipment like this should have a safety guard or shield to prevent injuries. Also, in the event brakes or shears require maintenance, they should be properly locked out and tagged out. Roll-forming equipment forms sheet metal into different shapes. There are a variety of roll-forming machines. They shape metal into simple curves like this OG roller, or into gutters, or roof panels.
Tool and equipment technologies are changing all the time. Talk with your metal roofing supplier to find out what's new to help you do a better job and work safely. Well, that brings us to the end of part 3. Before we move on, let's quickly review.
You became familiar with the tools you'll need to install metal roofing materials, including these field tools and power tools. Remember, wear the right PPE for the tools you'll use and the tasks you'll do. And if you use electric power tools, make sure there's a ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, at the power source. You also saw how sheet metal is cut and shaped in a shop using different kinds of equipment.
Now, this seems like a lot to remember, doesn't it? Well, don't worry. You'll get a chance to practice using these tools and equipment in your in-shop and on-the-job training. See you in part 4.
Concentration. Practice. It takes time to develop solid skills.
When you learn any new skill, the key to success is practice and building on experience. In part 4 of this video, you're going to add to your skills by learning the basics of metal application.
Let's start with installing underlayment. Underlayments are typically required in architectural metal roof systems. Check if the manufacturer suggests wrapping the underlayment over eave and rake edges. Otherwise, Set the roll edge flush with the outer rake and eave edges. Secure the upper corner of the felt with a single fastener. Roll the underlayment out 6 to 8 feet. Adjust the roll so it follows the bottom edge of the roof. Attach an additional fastener at the top edge. Continue rolling out the underlayment and fasten to hold it in place. If the underlayment runs crooked or buckles, realign it. If the underlayment is not straight, it will need to be cut. Unroll the rest of the underlayment so it overlaps the other rows, following the correct lay line on the underlying sheet, approximately 2 inches. Continue until the entire roof is covered, fastening the sheets at the side laps and down the center. Typically, underlayment is attached with staples or nails. Most manufacturers recommend using either metal or plastic cap nails. Refer to their instructions. If a slip sheet is required over the underlayment, install it the same way. Cutting metal is a basic skill you'll perform with snips and shears. You'll also use a technique called slit cutting. Slit cutting is done by scoring a straight line using a utility knife, then folding the sheet metal until it breaks. Don't forget to wear proper PPE when you work with any cutting tools. You'll practice slit cutting during your in-shop training. Sometimes you may have to bend metals on the job using equipment like this portable brake. Mark and set the metal squarely into the jaws of the brake. Clamp the jaws down using the jaw lock handle. Pull the folding handle using even pressure until the metal is at the desired angle. Release the jaw lock handle and carefully remove the formed piece. Use hand-folding brakes and tongs in a similar way.
Now let's look at how to start laying panels for metal roof systems. Typically, before laying panels, accessories such as edge and wall flashings and valley linings need to be completed. Check with the manufacturer's instructions. Once accessories are in place, you can start laying the panels. Here's how.
You should recall from Part 1 that it's important for all metal system panels to be installed squarely to the bottom edge of the roof. Squaring a panel is easy. The 3-4-5 method has been around for centuries. Before you start, make sure you're wearing a personal fall arrest system when you work near the edge of the roof. In this case, we have marked a point on the eave from which we want to establish a perpendicular line. Measure exactly 3 feet to the left and to the right of this center line. Use your tape measure to extend 5 feet up from each of these points and draw an arc intersecting the center line. The point where these two arcs intersect will be the 4-foot mark. Chalk a line between this point and the original center mark on the eave. This line is now square to the bottom edge of the roof. It can be extended vertically up the roof. You can then use this line to take measurements for additional vertical lines. Install your first metal panel following this line so it's perfectly square to the bottom edge of the roof. Do not follow the rake edge of the roof. They are often not squared.
Your first panel is square, and you're ready to install the rest of the system. Now is the time to follow the layout plan and manufacturer's instructions as you install the rest of the panels. Most metal panel systems are secured in place using some type of screw fastener.
There are 3 important points to know about installing screw-type fasteners. They should not be overdriven, underdriven, and they must be properly spaced. These 3 skills are critical for the proper performance of any metal roof system. Overdriving a fastener can distort a metal panel, reduce the fastener's holding power, and even break the fastener without you seeing it. Underdriving a fastener will cause the screw head to stick out and possibly damage the panel, and the fastener will be loose and won't secure the panel properly. An underdriven fastener could also interfere when you set the next panel in place. Metal panel systems are tested to resist wind damage provided the fasteners are properly spaced. If the fasteners are improperly spaced, the roof could blow off. Metal panels are fastened using either exposed fasteners or clips. Exposed fasteners are screw-type fasteners that typically include a neoprene washer. These fasteners are used on some through-fastened modular panel systems. Metal clips allow for movement from expansion and contraction. They are fastened to the substrate and locked into the seams of a metal panel. Each panel you install should be completely nested in place. That means the seams are in full contact.
Now, depending on the job, you may need to miter the metal roof panels at the corners. Let's look at how to do this common task.
When a panel intersects a corner or hip, let the panel extend beyond. Don't attach the panel yet. Carefully mark each edge of the panel where it intersects the center of the corner or hip. Remove the panel. Draw a straight line that connects the two marks and cut the panel following this line. Now, install the panel and secure it in place following the manufacturer's instructions for the detail. Sealants are often used with metal roof systems to help weatherproof at small cracks or joints. There are different types of sealants used for metal roof systems. There are foam rubber strips, tapes, and caulks. Make sure you use the right sealant for the job. Before you use any type of sealant, the surface to which you apply it must be clean and dry. For a sealant to do its job, it must be applied using the correct amount and properly located. Your supervisor will tell you what these are.
Water is kept out of metal roof systems at the seams. It's important that you become familiar with the different kinds of seams and learn the skills to install them.
There are a wide variety of standing seam designs used in metal roof systems. Each design helps determine a panel's profile, and each design is intended to keep the weather out in different ways. A standing seam is any kind of raised seam between metal panels. The panels may be designed to simply overlap, interlock, or be seamed mechanically above the roof surface. The manufacturer will provide seaming instructions for the type of system you install. The easiest system to install simply overlaps at the seams. Fasteners are installed through the panel surface. No further seaming is needed. Other seams snap lock together and cover the fastening clips. A mechanical fold lock seam is formed after the metal panels are installed. Here's how to do it. After the panel is nested in place, use a hand crimper to crimp the seam in place in one area near the top. Depending on the seam's length, you may have to do additional crimping to hold the panel in place. After hand crimping several panels in place, the system may allow for the use of a powered seamer to finish all of the seams. Powered seamers can create a single or double-locked weatherproof seam. For smaller jobs, the hand crimper may be used along the entire length of the seams. There are also flat-locked seams that join together in the same plane as the panel. Flat-locked seams may simply overlap, get locked together, and fastened in place. Sometimes they are also soldered to make the system more weather-resistant.
Well, we reached the end of part 4 and the end of this video. Let's take a moment to review what you've learned.
In part 1, you became familiar with metal roof applications, base metals and their unique characteristics and coatings, the screws and clips used to attach metal systems. In part 2, you reviewed critical safety tips for working with metal. Make sure you're properly trained to operate conveyors and hoists, know how to use the different fall protection systems, and always wear appropriate PPE. In part 3, you learned about the tools and equipment you'll use to install metal roofing components. In part 4, you learned about application basics, how to install underlayment, techniques for cutting metal, and brake forming. You became familiar with methods for securing metal panels, including squaring a panel to the bottom edge of the roof. You learned how to secure panels with fasteners, miter for corners, and seal joints. Finally, you learned how to install different types of seams. The speed of a striking snake, the power of a tiger. Combined with practice and discipline can make a skilled swordsman. Mastering any craft takes time and patience. Sure, it's demanding, but the results are worth it.
Every new skill you learn gives you an edge, but there's no substitute for practice, so continue to work on the basics. To help you keep improving as a professional roof mechanic, check out other MCA and NRCA roof application training programs. Thanks for watching.